Good morning, everybody. I know it is crazy early and, well, not anymore. It's 6:43. Everyone's probably up, but getting ready for work or school or whatever you're doing, taking care of your babies. So I just wanted to make a video. I was going to do something a little different this morning, but it's Monday morning and I feel inspired. I don't know why. I just feel so inspired today. So I thought I'd make a video for nurses. So there's a few things I want to discuss here, and they're all very important. I want to talk to you about adverse events that can happen inside your workplace or outside your workplace that are related to your workplace. Okay? And this is just some very short advice about a few things that can happen. Now, if this is related to a medication error, everything I'm telling you is out the window. And I'll talk about medication errors after I talk about this. So if you have made an error in anything and it's been caught by your educators way after the fact, and educators will go through your charts and go through your stuff, and they'll find where you're weak or where you need more education, need more help. If there's any errors, they'll catch you. They'll come and say, let's help you further educate. Most of the time, you're not going to lose your job over it. If it wasn't clearly a negligent error or something's happened and everybody's well, you're gonna get support. You're gonna get further education and help with it. Most of the time, with regards to medication errors, they don't happen. They're process errors. A lot of things have to go wrong and happen and fall in line for a medication error to happen. I've never had one. I'm grateful, but I'm anal as well. So I'm so careful because I'm terrorized. I'm terrified of it. I will talk to you about medication errors because they're a whole different story than what I'm about to discuss. This is about other sorts of adverse events. So let's say you are accused of something, and let's say you didn't do it. And your bosses or your educators or other coworkers want to talk about it. You want to clear your name, and you haven't done anything wrong, so you want to explain the situation and you want to set everything straight. Is that what you should do? The answer is no. This is what you should do. Speak to your union rep. Let's say something has happened inside the workplace or outside and you have done it. Should you admit to your error, take responsibility for your actions because you're a good person, and speak about it clearly to everybody? Eventually, yes, probably. But first, speak to your union rep. This is all very good advice. What else could happen? Let's say you're being accused of making mistakes, not medication mistakes, like ongoing different little issues, and you feel like a file is being built against you in the workplace. Usually these are workplaces like hospitals for the most part, and you'll feel like you're getting picked on for stuff, for every little thing that everyone else does, but for some reason every time you do it, you get written up or you get in trouble or your educators have something to say about it. Go to your union rep. Don't just take it. Don't deal with that. You don't need the stress, because when you're stressed and you're anxious and you're not confident, you're nervous, that's when you do make mistakes. And that's when you do have errors. And it's like, if you've had an error and it's been dealt with, it's addressed, it's discussed, go home. Don't stay the rest of the day in work, because once you've had an error or you've made a mistake, your confidence is jilted and you're not your best. You're not at your best. And that's how errors happen. So one bad thing can turn into another, So speak to your union rep, get out of there, get home, take a day for yourself, relax, realize that people make mistakes and it's not the end of days. And most of the time it's not going to cost you your job. Now, this is where does not count. Medication errors. If you have a medication error and you realize you just made it, whoever you find first, your charge nurse, a doctor, that's who you're going to immediately. And you are going to find that doctor and not make sure your patient's not alone, and find out what you need to do to save their life or to reverse the medication. Most good meds are reversible. Things can happen though. Like, I've seen a lot happen, a lot of errors happen. Some are deadly, but if they're caught and people get help right away, then they're not deadly. So I'll tell you how easy it is to happen. A serious medication error. I'll tell you how easy a serious one can happen. For instance, in Emerge. Now, this didn't happen to me, but this did happen to somebody I know. And it was easy. And I see how it happens. So Emerge nurses have a practice, which isn't supposed to be. It's against policy. I don't know if it's a best practice guideline. I think it is, actually, not to do this. But nurses will draw up more than one dose of a medication to give somebody. They will label the injection and leave it at their desk because they know in half an hour, I've got to go and do it again. And to get into the medication carts and get the meds out, it's a big deal. A lot of times you have to, medications are very protective. So a lot of times nurse will draw up more than one dose at a time, give their dose, leave what's left, the remainder there hidden in the desk. And when the next dose is ready, it's already prepared ahead of time and it's done. And they do that because we're so damn busy. It's hard to sometimes get people their meds on time. And especially with pain medications, we don't want our people to be in pain. So we want to have it ready on time. So this is what happened. So client's in a room. Nurse is looking after the client and there's an order to give them morphine because it's an old gal and she's going for a CT on her hip. And we want to load her up with a bit of morphine so she's not in agony during her CT. So it's about to happen. Like, you're going to do it. You don't have the order yet, but you know that that's what's about to happen. But you go on break and another nurse covers for you. And that other nurse is amazing. She's a great nurse. She's wonderful. And she says she will do it for you. Like, while you're gone, don't worry. I'll give the morphine. Everything will be fine. But the nurse that covered for you is on the code blue team that night. And it turns out while you're on break, there's a code blue on the floor. So that nurse is gone and someone else is covering. And you come back from your break. You don't know there was a code blue on the floor. You don't know that what your nurse did or didn't, except the medication is still there. Their dose is on the desk. It's labeled. It's the right amount. It's the right dose. And the patient is asleep or is in the room and isn't saying they had their medication. And you see your dose. You go and give the medication. Nurse comes back and was like, "What are you talking about? The patient was already gone to CT while you were on break and back. And you were feeling bad thinking they didn't get their morphine before their CAT scan, and you're going to give it now because they've been in pain long enough, so you gave it." And the nurse is like, "Actually, I didn't even hang it. I just pushed it because CT came to take them. And we didn't have time, and I didn't want her to be in pain, so I pushed it, and she got her dose. What I left for you is the next dose that's due." So you just double dosed someone with morphine. It isn't your fault. It is because you made assumptions, but it's a process error. Like, it's a process error. And most of the time you don't lose your job. I know a nurse that lost their job in an Emerge over giving a very safe over-the-counter medication, and it was an extended release instead of an immediate release. And this is something you can buy at Shoppers. And they lost their job over it, and they gave the safer drug as opposed to a dangerous one. They did everything right, reported it right away, did it all, acknowledged their error, did everything they should do. And this gal lost her job and had to, and she's working in Emerge somewhere else, and she's an amazing nurse. She's wonderful. But she was new and made that mistake because she couldn't really understand the doctor's handwriting, whether it was XR or IR, and immediate release versus extended release if you're not a nurse. So that was like an end game at that hospital for that nurse, and it's terrible. But that's why I always say, if you're unsure, you don't understand the writing, who cares what kind of doctor you have, a nice one or a jerk or the one that doesn't want to be bothered or one that's helpful. Most of the time they're super helpful and they don't mind being bothered because all they want is the best for all the patients too, and they work with us. They're good. They're great. So you can go and ask them and say, "I don't understand this. Like, can you just clarify?" And they'll clarify super quick. You can go back and there's no mistake. But what I explained to you about like the morphine incident, that can happen so easily. The other thing is with morphine, the other thing to be careful of, which I just thought of right now, is if you're pushing it and not hanging it and you're pushing it, make sure you push it over 5 minutes. It's easy to get talking with the patient, to put them at ease and you at ease, and to be pushing slowly, but realize you pushed in 2 minutes instead of 3, and all of a sudden they can't catch their breath. So make sure you're like looking at your watch. Yeah, if you want to talk a little bit, but that's not your priority. Your priority is looking at your watch and making sure you're pushing over 5 minutes at least, if it's a low dose, over 5 minutes. Because pushing morphine is an easy way to really hurt someone. Make sure you know where your Narcan is, where you can reverse it. I got snowed once by accident with morphine, and I needed Narcan. I've had kidney problems my whole life, and I went to the hospital, and the nurse pushed the morphine for me, but pushed it too quick, because I'm someone who had morphine many times because I have chronic kidney problems, and anyone who knows kidney stuff, stones and infections are super duper painful. So they pushed the morphine too quick, and I knew it instantly. I'll never forget the feeling in my whole life. I was sitting up and I was joking around talking with the nurse, and she was pushing the morphine, and instantly my whole body felt different. I said, something's wrong, something isn't right. And I breathed out, I exhaled, and I couldn't inhale. My lungs wouldn't work. I tripoded, I hung forward and tripoded, and I'll never forget the feeling. I couldn't make my lungs take a breath. I couldn't make myself, I was totally conscious and aware of it, but I couldn't make my lungs take a breath. And the nurse saw like I was going blue quick, ran and got the Narcan, and I was fine. And then they had to immediately give me more morphine because Narcan totally wipes it out. It's a good, Narcan's great. Morphine's a good drug. It can be reversed if you're paying attention when you're giving it, and if something goes wrong, you do something immediately to fix it. So that is basically what I wanted to talk to you about. Again, be super duper careful with your insulins. Be careful with your morphine. If you're dealing with pumps, make sure you're programming your pump right. If you're not sure if you've programmed your pump right, because all pumps, they're usually CADs, they're not tricky. You learn how to use it, but they are tricky and intimidating at first. Have a nurse double check your pump. Make sure you're programmed right, because a drip rate can mean the difference between life and death. And that's about it. And if anything goes wrong that is not life-threatening, but you think you're going to get in trouble for it, or you're having like the blame pinned on you, or if someone else does something wrong and the educators and management wants to talk to you about it, just to see what you saw or your take on it, or what information you might have about it, again, don't talk. Go to your union rep. It's not your responsibility to be talking about other people's mistakes or not mistakes or whatever happened, and it's not fair for you to be put in that position, so don't do it. Otherwise, that is all for this morning. I felt inspired to share that information today, and even this early in the morning, but why not on a Monday? So, and I haven't talked about any nursing stuff in a little while, so I thought this would be a good video to make. So I hope everyone has a lovely day. Oh, and it's a holiday today. I believe I'm not Jewish, but it is a Jewish holiday. It's Rosh Hashanah, and if I pronounced that right, I think I did. I believe it's the Jewish New Year, so happy Rosh Hashanah to all of my Jewish friends and colleagues, because I have quite a few from like people I've worked with in the past and friends that I have and that sort of thing. And I hope you have a wonderful and peaceful and loving year, and I hope you're enjoying your celebrations and what you do. I think it ends tomorrow night at nightfall, I believe. I believe that's how it goes. I hope I haven't offended anyone. If I'm wrong, I'm so sorry. But I think that's the deal. So anyways, with that said, I hope everyone has a great day, and I will see you all soon. Bye now.